Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Alright X. First time posting here, but I've been a long time lurker. Before I get into my dream, let me give you a little backstory. My entire life I've had horrible dreams, like 99.99% of them are related to my childhood trauma in some weird way. But every dream I've ever had I could always at least figure out in some way the reason I dreamed it. Like even if the dream for the most part doesn't make sense, in some way I can link it back to an experience I had in reality, at least partially. For this reason, I've always held the thought that dreams aren't really anything more than some subconscious thing that could always be explained with enough investigation. The most recent dream I had changed all of that, as it had no basis in anything I've ever seen, and it was also all viewed in the third person as if I wasn't even there. What I mean is the things in my dream never interacted with me, they never even noticed I existed, and I somehow knew I just wasn't there, and that I was simply observing. It also should be noted that I never really experienced any emotion in relation to the dream until I actually woke up and thought about it. At that moment I did my best to recount the events over and over again within my mind, as I've found this to be a useful way of actually remembering my dreams. Okay, with all of that being said, here's the dream. I'll do my best to green text it, but because I'm going to have to describe so much as it took place in another place, I anticipate it could get tricky. Also, I'm posting this on my phone, so my apologies for any errors, as I won't be proofreading this when I'm done. Dream starts in a desert. Think only sand. In sky there's what appears to be a moon, but it's definitely not our moon. Suddenly a portal opens up, creating a circle exactly the circumference of the moon in the sky. A figure drops out of it. Looks exactly like a human wearing what Steve Irwin would typically wear. At some point it occurs to me that he's a merchant. He doesn't drop to the ground. Instead he drops onto this mostly translucent walkway that spirals around in a giant half circle. The end of which is behind me outside of my view. In the middle of this is where pic related comes in. A figure, forming somehow. Imagine everything below red line is completely gone except there are a few ribs sticking out. It's clear that this something is very slowly being formed by what I have no idea. Pic related is as close as I could find, but it looked less human than the picture, but all of what was already formed was a smooth white and his face was completely absent. Merchant notices this entity and clearly feels it's some type of threat and decides to quicken his pace down the path. As the path progresses there's these circles that are glowing kind of like electricity. The merchant had the choice at each circle to either pass through these other portals or to keep going down the path. No idea how he actually does it, but after passing 3 portals he runs through the 4th the exact same way, but it transports him to a new place with more portals. My perspective immediately changes with him. It's clear he chose the portal to use somehow, even though nothing changed from my point of view. Start jumping from one strange eerie setting to the next. Finally stops at this town that kind of looks like the picture I posted on this post, except it's more eerie and there are faces within all of the walls of the buildings. They all look like stone, but also like they're in anguish, as if they were frozen in this state when they were in pain. The merchant is no longer afraid, as he's not near the forming thing anymore. Despite non-human creatures at every turn, it becomes clear to me this merchant is very confident in being in what appears to be a dangerous place. Get a gut feeling that there's more than meets the eye when it comes to him. He walks down an alley. There's a strange entity with a cart selling things that would be very hard for me to describe. Something catches the merchant's eye. Thing looks kind of like pic related except completely white, and each side is covered in what was described as runes. This thing flies around like a bug. Each time it flaps, it alternates between opening and closing one side of it. This is one of the only familiar things in the dream to me, as it reminding me of those silly things we'd make as kids in elementary school. Minus the magic runes. The main merchant is fascinated with this and makes some comment about it. He happily pays for it outside of my vision as I follow the rune-bearing paper bug as it drifts over to a nearby gutter. The gutter itself is very far down and there's a ledge, probably 10 feet down. This part is kind of hard to explain, so I'm going to go non-Greentext for it. So, the gutter didn't have water running through it. Instead, it was more like a conveyor belt. Like literally a long belt running through the city. On the belt was a bunch of what I can best describe as minerals of some sort. Think like the inside of a geode, I think that's how it's spelled, but with varying, brilliant bright colors. These minerals run to under a bridge. On the top of this bridge is where I finally fix my perspective on the rune thing as it floats down onto this conveyor belt. I can't see where the belt goes, but I can see a bright light emitting from under the bridge that I'm directly on top of, and I hear what sounds like glass crunching. It's at this point that I realize the rune thing is going to be crushed. This is when my merchant guy comes back into my perspective. He doesn't hesitate and jumps down onto the belt right before it goes under the bridge. I barely have time to process this when a grappling hook comes flying out and then up. Defying physics kind of thing, it grabs onto the ledge of the bridge right in front of me and pulls the merchant out safely. He puts the item in his brown satchel, not a purse, and continues on his journey with me following. He jumps another portal and ends up in a weird underground cave-type setting. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Beautiful water with some type of brilliant light coming out of it from an unknown source. Beautiful crystals all over the walls. The merchant explores the cave and finds what I can best describe as a line of ants. Only instead of ants they look like giant roly-polies, except with a smooth backing all about the size of my shoe. He follows the line and finds the leader of the line. The leader looks just like the rest of these creatures, except it has this golden-looking thing that's circling it. Think kind of like when a character levels up in a video game. The merchant is excited to find this and happily grabs the leader and puts him into his satchel. The other creatures continue in their line and nothing else changes as the merchant finds another portal to jump through. Eventually come across a hellish-looking place. Merchant comes across this evil-looking entity that kind of looks like the evil character in black from Maleficent. Can't remember the actress's name. Difference is she's huge and towers over the merchant. It's clear she's the leader of an army of black ghoulish-looking creatures with red eyes. Pretty much only shadows with howling red dots where the eyes are. Merchant is surprisingly happy to see her. Begins telling her about his find. Opens up his satchel and shows her. From my perspective, all I see is the golden glow coming from inside. She seems disinterested but not hostile. Forgot to mention they know each other by name. Can't remember what the names were though. It's clear this isn't the first time they've met. She says something about him needing to be on his way and she says some form of a disgruntled goodbye. I follow the merchant back as he jumps from portal to portal. He stops after several jumps and begins to full-on panic. He says something about forgetting his way back and fears he'll be lost forever. Don't know who he's talking to, but it's not me. Suddenly a new path opens up. Think a new translucent walkway running perpendicular to ours but with new portals in it. Somehow know it's from the evil-looking queen lady. This is who the merchant was talking to. He begins to run through the new walkway but it starts closing behind him. He finally stops at the original place where my dream started, but there's one thing different. This time he glances at the creature forming, but it's different. It's clearly almost done forming. Now had a fully formed body. Skin is still completely smooth and white and still so facial features at all, not even an impression of a nose. Creature also now has what appears to be armor placed randomly throughout his body. The armor is bright pink. Creature also appears to have a weapon that looks like a scythe, but instead of a blade it's a glowing pink energy. Merchant sprints back to the top of the pathway. Just as he reaches the top, a portal in the moon opens back up and he runs back through. This was the precise moment my dream ended. Reason I wanted to post it is I have no idea where it all came from or what it means. I know at the beginning I mentioned I didn't feel any emotion, but I forgot the eerie feeling I got in the town where the rune was bought, as well as the feeling of absolute, imminent doom when seeing the creature nearly formed. This was before I saw the merchant react and was an inherent sense I felt in my bones before I woke up. So tell me why I'm a schizo and should take my meds, or if you're a schizo tell me what the hell I dreamed and why. Thanks.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.